Hello readers, welcome back to Reads with Room B. Today I am going to be introducing you to Gumshoes, The Case of Madison's Father by Russell Nolte. Here are some fun facts about Russell Nolte. Russell was born in northern New Jersey and grew up in northern Virginia. He went to college in Maryland and now lives in Los Angeles with his wife and dogs. He is a best-selling author, publisher, and speaker. He owns and runs Wannabe Press, a small press that publishes weird books for weird people. And as an author, he writes urban and space fantasy along with science fiction and mystery novels. So, we are going to be starting to do his novel Gumshoes as our side read. So, alongside Peter Pan, every week I will be posting a new chapter of Gumshoes as the author, Russell, has given me permission to post the entirety of the work. So let me read you the blurb, and then we will then we will get on with things. Gumshoes is about a detective agency run by two middle school kids who are also top-tier detectives and genius-level scientists. It's basically CSI for kids. In this book, the Gumshoes join forces with their classmates to unravel the mystery of her father's kidnapping. Through a combination of good investigation, hard science, blind, dumb luck, the trio inch their way closer and closer to the truth. But will it be enough to track down her father before something happens to him? Let's get reading and find out. So this is our book, Gumshoes by Russell Nolte. Gumshoes, The Case of Madison's Father by Russell Nolte, published by Wannabe Press. For my mother, who always thought I should be a writer. Chapter 1, The Gumshoe Headquarters. 13-year-old Stuart Greenbaum lay on his stomach in the grass across from Miss Pennybottom's house. Sorry, readers. Using his powerful binoculars, he stared past the white picket fence, watching her front door. There was nothing Stuart loved more in the world than sleuthing. He longed to be like Dan Dash, the classic pulp fiction comic detective. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. He longed to be like Dan Dash, the classic pulp comic detective, with the bushy mustache and brown fedora. When Dan Dash walked into a room, he became the center of attention. Someday, Stuart thought, that would be him, but for now he had to be content with standing in the periphery, the shadows, unnoticed by the teachers and classmates alike. He was not particularly athletic or tall. He had no musical talent, and no one ever wanted to cheat off his papers. Yes, by all accounts, Stuart was an average kid with a very weird hobby, but nothing would stop him from dreaming or wearing his Dan Dash footy pajamas while on the job. Stuart turned on his walkie-talkie. I'm so bored and tired. Can't crimes ever happen on my time? It's too early. The walkie-talkie crackled to life, and a nasally high-pitched voice responded to him. The hen is nearing the basket. Over, Stuart said. You're supposed to say over. Don't correct me, Stuart. I find this primitive technology well below my vast intellect, and anybody with a fourth grade education has access to a smartphone these days. I like it old school, just like Dan Dash. You and that stupid don't call Dan Dash stupid. He's the greatest detective of all time. He's a comic book character. I pity that you idolize a fictional character, especially one that uses such antiquated methods of investigation. Wait a minute, Stuart thought. The voice is getting closer. Stuart turned from his surveillance post to see the insurmountably awkward, exceptionally geeky 13-year-old Tommy Jensen, Stuart's business partner at the Gumshoes Detective Agency and his best friend and bane of his existence. Timothy wore thick Coke bottle glasses and never combed his hair. His clothes were often stained with the residue from some botched experiment or failed compound, and as a rule, he preferred the gentle hum of a computer monitor to human interaction. And his love affair with science kept him indoors even on the year's most beautiful day. You suck all the fun out of everything, said Stuart. Well, is there anything you'd like to say for yourself? Absolutely, Timothy said. I believe our target is making his move. Stuart crouched down, hiding himself beneath the oak tree that had stood across from Miss Pennybottom's house longer than anyone could remember. Stuart grabbed Timothy by his gangly left arm and pulled him to the ground. You're just about as subtle as a freight train. They watched as a balding, slovenly, middle-aged man, dressed in an ill-fitting robe, sneaked his way up to Miss Pennybottom's porch, and as he slithered up the front stoop, he craned his neck around, on the lookout for potential observers. Once satisfied that his crime would go unnoticed, he snatched up the newspaper. I love this part, said Stuart. Believing that he had successfully masterminded the crime of the century, the man opened the newspaper with the slyest of grins on his face. But a blue paint bomb exploded from inside the paper, splattering all over his clothes and face. As the man wiped off the evidence, doors around the block opened and guttural laughter exploded from every stoop. If he had not been covered in blue from head to toe, the man surely would have turned a vibrant shade of red. The rumble of laughter died down, and Pennybottom's front door opened, and there stood Jill Pennybottom, chuckling under her breath. Don't know anything about who's been stealing our paper, eh, Bill? Daylight broke as Stuart and Timothy stood on the front stoop of Miss Pennybottom's house, watching her dole out coins one by one in excruciatingly slow pace. That's $2.50 for you each. Thanks so much, Gumshoes. You're worth every penny. I'll be sure to tell all my friends about you guys. The Gumshoes yawned loudly as Miss Pennybottom patted them on the tops of their heads. Thanks, Miss Pennybottom. Stuart and Timothy turned and walked down the path away from the house, counting their pittance. Penny is the operative word, Timothy said. Those paint bombs cost 5.25 times more than what we charged her. We're losing our shirts. We're going to have to get a job to finance our job, Tim. At least we have some time before we go to school. I think you're mistaken, Timothy said. Well, we thought the perpetrator would make his move at 5:15. His crime wasn't actually committed until 6:30. Stuart panicked. So you're saying our bus should be coming in roughly 30 seconds, said Timothy. Stuart looked towards the end of the street and saw a bright yellow school bus screeching to a stop. He watched as one of his classmates shuffled onto the bus, and then he turned and sprinted in the opposite direction. You're going the wrong direction, Timothy shouted after him. Stuart did not break stride. Thanks, genius. I'm not ready. I'm still in my PJs. The bus just pulled away. As Timothy caught up to Stuart, the bus turned up the cul-de-sac and headed towards another group of middle schoolers. If we hurry, we'll catch it before it comes back around, Stuart shouted over his shoulder. Stuart stopped to catch his breath in front of a large gnarled oak tree. The tree was the tallest in the neighborhood and grew in Timothy's front yard. From the top of the tree, one got a panoramic view of the entire neighborhood, from Mr. James' ill-advised morning yoga routine to Mrs. Wrigglemooner's prize-winning begonias. Now, the highest point of this massive oak was the largest treehouse in 5 counties, as observed by the East Willow Chronicle. The treehouse, Timothy's reward for perfect report cards from ages 3 through 10, had taken 6 months to build, and it not only had every modern convenience, but also every possible device that any able-bodied genius would need to solve crime. Security had been the biggest challenge to the design of the treehouse, with all the costly equipment inside those walls. Timothy and Stuart wanted insurance against any unauthorized unauthorized individuals who might try and gain access to Gumshoe headquarters. Timothy reached into his book bag and pulled out a little remote control. This was Timothy's ingenious solution to the security question. He pressed a button. A ladder came down, and they climbed up. He pressed it a second time, and the ladder retracted, securing the entrance to the treehouse. Only 2 remotes existed. They were exclusively controlled by members of the Gumshoe Detective Agency. After climbing the ladder, Stuart and Timothy walked through the front door, which was emblazoned with the words, "Authorized personnel only." For the most part, no one else really wanted to enter anyway, so there was not much need of the stern warning. Nobody, of course, except Stuart's mother, who tried to sneak in at least once a week with snacks or some other half-baked excuse to check on her son. Large openings ran along the entire length of each wall that allowed the Gumshoes to view any crime within a 10-block radius. Each opening was equipped with a powerful telescope. The telescopes could see even a small object, such as a hummingbird's eye, from 2,000 feet away. The room was split down the center lengthways by a wooden counter. Each side of the room was a haven for one of the inhabitants. The left side housed a small kitchen, complete with a fully stacked fridge, a huge TV, and an assortment of video games, and stacks of old Dan Dash comics piled to the ceiling. This was Stuart's sanctum. The left side of the room was the right side of the room was the antithesis of its left. It was Timothy's domain. A row of computer monitors sat along the counter and blocked Timothy's view of Stuart's squalor. Timothy tried, as much as possible, to create a laboratory that would be devoid of Stuart's disgusting and slovenly behavior. Unfortunately, he rarely succeeded. Stuart dug through his massive clothing pile, throwing clothes skyward as he searched for anything that did not smell like rancid milk. In his frantic rush to meet the bus, Stuart threw on the first half-powered outfit he could find. An oversized shirt with a big smiley face, green shorts, and a running shoe and a dress shoe. Timothy chuckled. This doesn't work. Stuart tore off his clothes and tried another outfit. Timothy ran over to the opening that was opposite the door and began tracking the bus. The bus is almost here. Please hurry up. We can't be tardy. Just give me 30 more seconds, Stuart said. Timothy turned around to scoff at Stuart, but much to his surprise, Stuart now wore an acceptable outfit and had even run a brush through his hair. Stuart threw on his backpack. Well, are you just going to stand there, or are you going to hop too? I do so hate this part, said Timothy. Quit being a baby. Stuart hopped onto the ledge next to Timothy. The zip line, which ran from the balcony to the street below, was the result of a moment of sheer brilliance. Stuart had often proclaimed. He had sold the idea as a method of quickly stopping perpetrators in their tracks. However, he only ever used it to cram in an extra 3 minutes of sleep before dinner. Timothy protested the use of the zip line since its installation, and had only agreed to use it in the direst of circumstances. Certainly, tardiness to school was the direst of circumstances Timothy could imagine, short of receiving a grade lower than an A. Stuart patted Timothy on the back as he pushed him up to the ledge. Hold on tight, buddy. Don't be afraid to really rap on. Stuart grabbed hold of the zip line. Timothy grumbled and wrapped his arms around his friend's chest, legs, and waist so tightly Stuart lost a little feeling in his midsection. You ready? Asked Stuart. No, said Timmy. But Stuart didn't care. He pushed off from the window, and they sped down to the street below, just as the bus rounded the corner. Stuart laughed as the breeze flowed through his hair. See, it isn't so bad. Speak for yourself. Timothy squeezed Stuart tighter. They were halfway down when the school bus stopped dead in the path of the zip line. Stuart kicked his legs, trying valiantly to fight gravity and slow himself. This isn't good. Oh no! Oh no! Bam! They slammed right into the side of the bus, and Timothy lost his grip on Stuart and fell to the ground in a heap. Stuart stuck to the bus for a brief second, peeked in the nearest window. When he heard a cacophony of laughter directed at him, his humiliation was complete. When gravity pulled him down off the bus, he landed right on top of Timothy. That could have gone better. Agreed, said Timothy. The bus door was swung open. Miss Haggerty sat in the driver's seat, smiling at them. Her teeth looked like they had been replaced by little flecks of baked bean, and the sight of them caused Stuart to gag every time he saw her. You scratched my bus, Peanuts, said Miss Haggerty. I love this bus more than I love my own flesh and blood, so you can imagine how much more I'm liking you two. We'll be more careful next time, Miss Haggerty, said Stuart and Timothy in unison. We promise. Just sit down and shut your trap, she said. Stuart and Timothy made their way through the bus to a chorus of cackles and boos from every face they passed, and every time they attempted to sit down, a disapproving scowl or threatening glare forced them to continue their shameful march. Finally, they found an open seat towards the back of the bus and slid into it, hoping to disappear from sight. Miss Haggerty shot daggers at them as she popped the clutch and drove away. Their efforts at invisibility proved unsuccessful, however, as they heard a familiar, gruff voice of the monstrous figure lumbering toward them. Powerful footsteps shook the bus with every step. Stuart and Timothy shivered as they hoped against hope it would pass unnoticed. Hey, nerds! The words echoed through every nook and cranny on the bus. Nice show you two dorks put on. Oh no, Stuart said. Chet. Maybe he'll go away, said Timothy. But they would have no such luck. The monstrous figure stopped inches away from their face. His enormous shadow blotted out the sun as the monstrosity sank down to address them. Drool fell off his chin and splashed in a puddle at Stuart's feet. Ew. Next to Stuart, Timothy stiffened as the foul stench of Chet's breath reached him. The shadowy red-haired mouse moved into the light and fixed its beady eyes on Stuart. Chet Oliver was the worst nightmare of anyone attending East Willow Middle School, and the oldest 8th grader in the history of the school by several years. It was rumored that he had been held back 5 times because the high school principal feared for his life in Chet's presence. I thought maybe after I promised to pound you into dirt, you babies would be too chicken to ride the bus today, said Chet. Stuart puffed out his chest in an attempt to act tough, but his voice cracked. Just move on, Chet. There's nothing to see here. Baby got a backbone. That's a laugh. Everybody laugh. The entire bus erupted into laughter. I brought something for you dweebs. Chet reached into his pocket and held up a rotten egg with his left hand. The pungent smell wafted through the entire bus. Twin girls in the front row choked back vomit, and other students desperately tried to open their windows. I swiped it from my mom this morning. It seems rancid, said Tim. Your mother should read the expiration date on her food more carefully. I'm actually quite surprised you haven't eaten it yourself by now, given your sizable girth and the lack of a refined palate. Tim, shut it, whispered Stuart. Why, it's true, Stuart. He's a very large boy, or boy man, and the fact he hasn't already consumed available food is quite a testament to his rule. Are you on a new diet, Chet? Chet fumed. What did you say, runt? Stuart held his arms over his face, protecting himself from the inevitable blow that would render him unconscious until he turned 18. He's going to kill us, Chet. Buddy. He's just kidding. You know Tim. Such a kidder. Right, Tim? Chet scoffed and raised his massive hand over his head and slammed the egg over Stuart's head, mashing it deep into his hair follicles. The egg dripped down and covering his clothes and enveloping Stuart in its horrific stench from head to toe. Awesome. And that is Chapter 1 of Gumshoes, The Case of Madison's Father. See you next time, readers. Bye!